It's uncomfortable sometimes to be aware of all that there is to be aware of. And so what we'll do sometimes is check out, numb ourselves. I'm seeing a lot of nods. I really, really get what it's like to check out and to numb yourself, to not be with the feelings, not be with what's there, to be what's present. I was fired from Merrill Lynch in my early 20s when I had a promising future in that company. At the time, a Fortune 5 company. I worked in a brand new office on 55th Street between Madison and Fifth Avenue, if my memory serves me well. Does Madison and Fifth Avenue run parallel? I think they do, yeah. It's a really nice address. You walk into this office, gorgeous, huge domed ceiling, customized every bit, mahogany furniture, polished, gleaming. And I was asked to leave. I was asked to leave because I was a junkie. My boss called me into his office, Fred. Fred said, "Why don't you come sit down?" I was like, uh-oh. He doesn't ever ask me to come into his office and sit down. We're not friends that way. We don't chat. He said, "We need to talk. We have a team of lawyers who have determined that you are addicted. You're an addict. And so we invite you to no longer work here." I was thinking, I've never taken drugs. At the time, I wasn't drinking a drop of alcohol because alcoholism runs in my family. And I had unpleasant experiences with it, and so I felt like I was living a clean life. Worse, I had already graduated from holistic health counseling school. I was a health counselor. I knew a lot about being healthy, and I still got myself fired for being an addict. Because if you could really visualize a needle hanging out of my arm, what would be in the needle would be a cupcake, chocolate cake, ice cream, all the deliciousness and yumminess of life. So after work some days, I would go to the bakery and I would look at all the gorgeous selections. Because in New York City, do they have good bakeries? Yeah, they've got good bakeries. Yeah, you know. And I'll go to that bakery and I would look and I would say, and the lady behind the counter would say, "What would you like?" And I would say, "Yes."
One of each.
And she would say, "Would you like a box of forks and a pile of napkins?" I'd say, "No, just one fork, please." And I would go home and I would eat every single one. It'd take me a little bit of time. And then I would wake up the next day not remembering what happened. Crumbs on my clothes, rumpled drool. It's not pretty. I'd be late for work. Sometimes I'd call in with some cockamamie excuse, which is what got me fired. Yeah. And if I went to work, I was foggy-headed, sugar hangover. If you don't know that sugar is an addictive substance, ask the scientists. Years ago, Forbes magazine published research about multiple studies that have tested sugar on lab rats. And what they found is that the lab rats prefer sugar, specifically Oreos, which are delicious, right? Specifically, these lab rats prefer Oreos to cocaine. Specifically, these rats prefer Oreos to heroin 100% of the time. Again and again, different lab, different rats, and me. I prefer Oreos to heroin. I've never tried heroin, but who needs it when you got sugar, right? Whew. But you know what? All these years, sugar had me checking out. Sugar had me leaving my problems behind and not worrying about them. And that was my addiction. And when I gave up using food and freebasing food, I think that's what it looks like, freebasing food, I moved on to adrenaline sports, motorcycling, skydiving, driving really fast, until I ended up with a few crumpled cars. Anybody here work for State Farm? Okay, all right, good. All right, yeah, a few crumpled cars and a completely crumpled motorcycle. And it may not be that for you. It may not be adrenaline for you. It may not be sugar for you. It could be shopping. It could be cigarettes. It could be alcohol. It could be gambling. There are a lot of ways that we check out in life. There are a lot of ways we don't want to be aware. And I understand. I understand you because I couldn't be with awareness for a very long time. Couldn't deal with feelings, especially my own. Feelings of anger. Anger became another addiction. Righteousness. Feels good. It gives energy to be righteous and angry about something. So everybody in my life was a target for wrongness. Had me feeling more powerful. But isn't that silly? Because there's no power in pointing a finger at somebody. You've heard of that. When you point a finger at somebody, how many fingers are pointing back? More fingers are pointing back than pointing forward.